The film opens with a team of American Navy SEALs raiding a group of insurgents. They launch a swift attack and successfully rescue several captives. After the mission, John searches the pockets of a dead Syrian soldier and discovers from the data on his phone that the man was actually a former soldier of the U.S. Army. Ryder instructs John to drop the matter and leave immediately. As they prepare to depart, a Russian unit fires an RPG at them. John and his team retaliate and soon realize that the location is not a Syrian base, but a Russian weapons storage facility. During the intense battle, John escapes with the hostages to the roof where a helicopter extracts them. On board, he blames Ryder for the deaths of his men at the hands of the Russians. 3 years later, one of John's former teammates, now retired and spending time at home with his family, is run over by a van outside his house. Shortly after, another retired member of the team is assassinated on the road by unknown attackers. That night, as John and his wife are preparing to sleep, he leaves the bedroom to relax on the couch, eat a snack, and listen to music. Suddenly, his laptop powers off and he realizes the electricity has been cut. He hears footsteps approaching and a door opening. He retrieves his revolver and follows the sounds. When he crawls back to check on his wife, he finds the attackers have already struck. He is severely injured and taken to the hospital. When he finally regains consciousness, Captain Karen visits him and informs him of the murder of his wife and the 2 retired Navy SEAL. She informs John about the security measures put in place for the remaining Navy SEAL team members. John explains that the men who broke into his home were not ordinary criminals, but trained professionals. He asks her for the identities of the attackers, but she claims she has no information and advises him to rest. As the case is still under investigation, John eventually recovers from his injuries and begins rehabilitation sessions. Meanwhile, the Secretary of Defense holds a meeting with Ryder and Greer. During the discussion, Ryder reveals that the attackers were Russian soldiers and members of the FSB, Russia's Federal Security Service. He explains that John and his team had raided an FSB facility in Aleppo years earlier to rescue hostages, and the recent attacks are acts of retaliation. He also states that the CIA has decided not to take any action. As a result, Ryder concludes that no consequences will fall on the attackers or on Russia if the investigation continues. Later, Karen returns to John and informs him that the Russians were responsible for his wife's murder and that the CIA plans to shut down the investigation entirely. Out of courtesy, she gives him files on passport facilitators in the United States. One of them, Andre, helped the attackers enter the country. Armed with this information, John immediately begins his mission to avenge the deaths of his wife and former teammates. He heads to Andre's office, pretending to be drunk. Andre's security guards stop John and escort him out of the building. John returns to his vehicle and follows Andre's car onto the highway. He chases him aggressively and eventually crashes into his car on a curve. After forcing him to a halt, John demands the name of the 4th man who invaded his home. Andre reveals the name, Viktor Rykov. John is arrested by the police at the scene. While he is in prison, Karen visits him and informs him that he is in serious trouble for killing Andre. Everyone at the office is upset because they believe John's actions will provoke retaliation from the Russians. John responds that he intends to kill everyone involved in his wife's murder. He explains that they brought the war to his home, took his wife, and killed his unborn daughter. He says he possesses information that the government will want, and if they need it, they must release him. Back in his cell, John notices activity outside. A guard orders him to stand and face the wall for transfer to further interrogation, but he refuses soon after. A U.S. Marshal arrives and requests that John come with him. The Marshal hands him a phone, allowing Karen to convince him to cooperate. John is taken to a closed-door meeting at a military facility. There, he is asked to reveal the classified information he claims to have. He gives them the name Viktor Rykov. When shown photos, Ryder claims that Rykov is dead. However, John later identifies him in the images. The officials conclude that if Rykov is alive, he must be located and captured. Ryder explains that Rykov is a Russian spy involved in multiple operations within the United States. The secretary then reveals that Rykov is currently hiding in Russia. John demands to join the team assigned to capture him. John insists that the mission needs someone like him, claiming no one else has his skills. He is granted permission to join the team, but with the condition that once the mission is over, he will return to prison as a criminal. Commander Karen, John, and the rest of the team board a civilian aircraft headed to Russia. Reiter arrives before departure and informs them he will meet them later in Moscow. John remains suspicious of him and decides to be cautious. During the flight, as the team checks their equipment, the aircraft is suddenly targeted by the Russian Air Force and struck by a missile. Despite the chaos, John and the others manage to escape the sinking plane and reach the shore. They move to a safe house where John witnesses Reiter meeting two Russians with money laid out on the table, prompting him to suspect treason. He confronts Reiter, demanding answers. Reiter explains that he arrived after the plane crash, believing the team was dead, and came solely to complete the mission of capturing Victor. He also reveals that he hired the two Russians to guide them to Victor's location. Reiter then leads them to Victor's apartment. Upon entering, John discovers that Victor's bodyguards have already been killed. Victor appears wearing an explosive vest and claims that he did not order the assassination. He insists that both he and John have been manipulated and brought here to kill each other. Before John can get more information, Victor triggers the explosives and kills himself. A hidden sniper shoots Dallas, one of John's team members. After the explosion, the group struggles to locate the shooter, but eventually identifies and eliminates him. Meanwhile, another sniper opens fire on them. Karen and John manage to find and neutralize the second sniper as well. During this chaos, Russian police and military forces surround the building. Two officers are killed outside, creating the perfect setup to blame John's team. John realizes that the entire mission, his home attack, the murder of his teammates, and the operation in Russia was part of a larger conspiracy from the beginning. The team decides they must eliminate the sniper positioned at the entrance to escape. As the others make their way out, John stays behind to hold off the advancing soldiers. He fights through several military units in the stairwell before escaping himself, disguised as a Russian soldier wearing a gas mask. John, Karen, Reiter, and the remaining team members flee Russia and regroup on a boat. John questions Reiter about Victor and his involvement with the CIA. Reiter explains that Victor's death was staged and that John was believed to have died in Murmansk. John thanks him and apologizes for suspecting him of treason. Later, John confronts Secretary Clay in a restaurant restroom, demanding to know the truth behind the mission. Clay explains that he orchestrated the operation to manipulate tensions between the United States and Russia, believing that renewed conflict would strengthen American unity and benefit the economy. John and his teammates were used as bait to escalate hostilities. John records Clay's confession and hands the evidence over to the CIA. Karen drives him to the airport and provides him with a new identity.